Welcome to our webinar by NEOGOV, the Hopeful Horizon of Recruitment. This is based on our 2025 Public Sector Hiring Report, so we're really excited to have you all today. I'm going to start off with some introductions. So my name is Alex Anderson. I'm a Product Marketing Manager here at NEOGOV. I oversee our talent acquisition, hiring solutions, so we'll kind of be diving into that area today. So it's great to have you all. I've been at NEOGOV for about a little over 3 years now, and I previously worked in the nonprofit and a little bit in some government programs as well. So super glad to be here with you all, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jenna.
Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Jenna Nelson, and I'm an HR generalist here at NEOGOV. I've been here only for about 4 months, so I'm still a newbie here. But prior to joining the team here, I have 6 years of recruitment experience at both the state and federal government level. And within that time, I held 2 supervisory talent acquisition positions. And also, while I worked in the public sector, I actually used NEOGOV's Insight as an applicant tracking system, which ultimately led me to my career here. So happy to be here and talk to you guys today.
Fantastic. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adam Hall. I'm a solutions engineer, sales engineer here with NEOGOV. I think Jenna may have me beat by a couple weeks. So I'm just in my 100th-ish day here with the organization. But I was in the NEOGOV family before I joined as an employee. Worked at the local municipality where I'm at in Southeast North Carolina. Shout out if any of my friends are on the call today. We're excited. Some of you said you'd be here, so I hope you are. And but my background expands in public service for over, I just did the math, I think 17 years. So I worked in higher education for a very long time at a public institution, transitioned to a municipality where I learned about this wonderful organization, worked with the products, both as in the recruitment space, but also the performance management space. So a lot of background, a lot of user experience, and honestly was thrilled when our report came out and I got to share it with you all. So I'm excited to share a lot with you today and have a great conversation.
Awesome, thank you guys. All right, so before we jump in, I'm just gonna cover some housekeeping items. Feel free if you have questions throughout, drop them in the chat. We'll have a little bit of time at the end to address some of those. And the webinar recording and the slides and also the report will be emailed to you after the event. So don't worry if you missed something or have to hop off early, that's okay. You'll get all the information so you can reference it and share it later on. And then at the end of the webinar, there will be a quick 2-minute survey that will pop up. So we'd really appreciate it if you would fill that out for us, share your feedback. Anything helps us improve future webinars, share what you liked, what you didn't like, that's okay. We know it happens sometimes. So we just love to hear your feedback after the event. So awesome, okay. So we're going to start off today by sharing just some high-level highlights from this year's report, and then we'll talk about what all this means for the future of hiring in the public sector. So we gathered hiring data from thousands of local and state government agencies over the course of the past 5 years, from 2019 before the pandemic, and then all the way through 2024, the most recent year of data. So what we discovered is that there is hope on the horizon for public sector agencies that are hiring going forward, and hence the name of the report. After the past few really challenging years of applicant shortages and really tough competition, I'm sure many of you know what that was like. The tables are finally turning. We uncovered some really encouraging trends that suggest we're already shifting towards an employer's market. And this is a really huge benefit for the public sector. And in some ways, government agencies are even poised better than the private sector for various reasons. So we're going to talk more about what's driving this shift on the next slide, and then we'll get into how the public sector can start to get the advantage moving forward. So here are some of the key indicators of improvement that we found when we were looking at this data. These topics are really going to be a through line of a lot of the trends and takeaways that we discussed today. So I won't spend too much time digging into them here because Adam and Jenna will have a lot more insights to share as we continue, and we really want to hear from them. So what we found is that application numbers are rising across all the quartiles, with quartile 1 being the top 25% of jobs that tend to get the most applications. You don't usually have that hard of a time filling those roles. And then quartile 4 being the bottom 25% of jobs that are typically not getting as many applications, and they're often considered hard to fill roles. So we're seeing a lot more job seekers in 2025, which is partially why we're also seeing more applications for these hard to fill roles. And one of the key driving factors that works in the public sector's favor is that we're also seeing more job seekers who are looking for roles that give them stability and have like a strong sense of purpose that aligns with their own values. So it's really no secret that that's a huge selling point for the public sector, and that's a key factor in today's discussion and our recommendations on how you can begin to really set your agency up for continued success no matter what happens in the future. So with that said, let's get into the key trends that are reshaping public sector recruitment in 2025. First up, we found an increasingly questionable market where private sector and even federal trust is starting to get a little bit more unstable. State and local government work is becoming the safe choice again. So I'm going to pass it on to Jenna. She's going to talk a little bit more about the data behind this and what we can take away from it.
Awesome. Well, as a previous public sector employee, it is so nice to see the tide is turning in public sector recruitment. Our data shows that from 2023 to 2024, applications to government jobs surged 14.6%, while the number of eligible applicants increased 10.7%. Additionally, the conversion rate of job views to applications submitted jumped 31%, meaning more people who view government job postings are actually applying. And then, awesome. So what does all of this data mean? HR executive found that the amount of job seekers seeking other employment for better pay decreased from 45% to 41% in 2025. Instead, they're gravitating towards meaningful, stable work amidst rising costs, frequent layoffs, and economic uncertainty. So when I previously worked in state government, I remember the issues we had with trying to be as competitive as we could with pay, but we could only do so much. This seemed to be especially difficult with the younger generations. I think they're much more likely to speak up or leave if they aren't happy with pay or culture compared to other generations. And I also think they just tend to be more focused on the present versus the long term. I come from a long line of public servants. So my mom, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, and my grandparents, they all worked in either state or federal government. So I think I was always taught that a government job is a great job. So when I was graduating college, I applied for a state job and I started a week after I graduated. But I really didn't realize the extent of how important that job security was until 2020 when COVID hit. I saw many friends and family members uncertain about their jobs. Some were laid off temporarily, some permanently. So not only did I discover just how important that security is and stability, but we can see this in the data that others have as well.
So true, Jenna, thank you. So Jenna kind of touched on why this matters, but as we know, public sector work is historically much more stable and reliable than private sector. So it can withstand those economic hardships. It rises, the rises and falls in the job market, and that assurance is what candidates today want when everything else feels like a big question mark. We've seen a lot of layoffs recently too, both federal and private sector. So they really want to know that they're secure in their jobs. So we all want to feel confident about that because, our livelihoods depend on it. And so this will be a really key selling point in your job postings and agency marketing tactics going forward. One really impactful thing that you can do is make sure your job descriptions really clearly state the longevity of public sector work and connect to your larger organization mission. So help job seekers sort of envision themselves at your agency for a really long time and understand all the benefits that come with working in the public sector, like job security and community support. Jenna did a really amazing job. I have to brag a little bit about her on this video tutorial. She walks through how to create high-performing job postings. She talks about the do's and don'ts of writing job descriptions, and all of her tips can be easily implemented. She even provides a really nice template at the end that you can follow to get started with your job description. So if you want to take less than 30 minutes to check it out, you can click on the link here in the webinar slides. We'll send the slides to you guys after the event so that you can go in and watch that tutorial. Promise it's worth it, so definitely check that out. All right. Okay, so our next trend is something I did touch on before. The hard to fill roles are finding a foothold. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Adam now, and he's going to share some insights about this and explain what's motivating job seekers to apply.
Fantastic, Alex. Thank you so much. So, gang, I'm really thrilled to be talking about this slide specifically. Similar to Jenna, part of my background is in talent acquisition, recruitment, spending time with wonderful applicants and folks who want to join the organizations that we're working in. And so, what's exciting about this slide is that we've seen that growth in the bottom 2 quartiles of those jobs that are more typically difficult to fill, specifically quartile 4, which is like, these are impossible to fill jobs, and we're finding traction for the first time in a while in both quartile 3 and quartile 4. And so what's also really interesting is that in 2025, we're seeing that there's 34% of job seekers don't have a room to grow within their current organization, right? So we're seeing opportunities where folks who are feeling stagnant within their organizations, both public and private, are back looking in the market after kind of post-COVID navigating that space. Seeing that chart from the beginning, we're seeing that incline of folks just entering the market, putting their application out there, seeing what their options are. And so I think is really helpful is that we're in a conversation now that it's not just about the finances, it's about the finances, the stability, and the opportunity for growth. And so back to what Jenna shares and highlights in her tutorial is really highlighting the opportunity for advancement, opportunity for growth within your organization, because that's generally what we have opportunity for is folks are consistently engaging with the organization, they're growing within our walls, and we want to retain them. So what do those plans and those paths look like? And so we're seeing new and seasoned professionals hit these barriers, and so creating spaces for them in your internal processes, both technically creating space for them with new technologies and processes and protocols, but also that leadership conversation where you want to elevate folks from within the organization. Because we're seeing more folks out there in the field. If you're retaining your talent, you're not recruiting new talent. You're continuing to grow them. So we are seeing some really great things there. One of the highlights on this that I think is really helpful is us starting to think differently about what growth looks like within our organizations. I worked with some fantastic colleagues during my time in public service and in higher education that really focused on expanding my horizons to beyond the physical boundaries of my role and of the place I worked. And so what do those connections look like with your employee networks, your organizations, your national, state, right? So, and where those interest areas lie, I'll touch a little bit more on that on a later slide. But again, building out those information and those development pipelines within your organization now is going to help retain, but also attract new talent that's out there in the market right now that you're currently not kind of tapping into. Excellent. So let's jump into the next slide, please. So I shared this earlier. Where I think is really helpful here is when we start looking at the data behind this statement. So job seekers at all career levels are looking for steady work. Again, when we have this changing, shifting reality, both politically and economically, I don't know about you all, but generally the biggest challenges and hurdles I dealt with in my career were change, just in general. Any type of change is difficult for folks. And so if we start looking at that as a reality for our job seekers, we can also see that our Gen Zs are one of our fastest growing populations coming into the workforce, and that's in the workforce. This year is going to surpass the baby boomers in the active workforce in the US. Right, so they've transitioned to 18% of the workforce compared to 16% for our baby boomer generation. We've seen that shift finally happen, so they're going to continue to grow, and globally they're going to be 27% of the workforce in the next year. So that is a large number of employees in that Gen Z space, and they have different values and ethics when it comes to work, similar to what Jenna was sharing earlier. that we know that a large portion of them, 86%, with some of the research that we were able to find for our conversation today, show that a sense of purpose is one of the, if not the most important, one of the top 2 most important realities that they work in. So sense of purpose, connecting to our missions. And I know the folks on this call, we have purpose in droves and spades, right? That's what we stand for. And so when I think about that, that's a huge buy-in and attractive idea for our job seekers, especially our younger job seekers. Now, our older populations, they're probably also aligned with some of that, right? They want to leave legacies of success. They want to be aligned with mission and vision and values of an organization. And so again, on multiple fronts here, we're having the same conversation, but just with a different directionality. Pause there real quick. So again, the so what really about all this is that because our candidates are becoming more motivated by job security and opportunity to learn new skills, we are potentially missing the opportunity to continue to retain them, but also attract that new talent, as I shared earlier, with some of these structures, building this out in your job postings, what development looks like, what longevity looks like, and how your organization is already doing some of that. Because many of us are doing it, we may just not be highlighting it the way that we could to, again, attract that talent. So Alex, I'm going to pass it back over to you, make sure I didn't miss any of our talking points.
Yeah, Adam, you did great. Thank you. And, you know, he covered a lot of what we know today. Public sector benefits and stability really do boost your appeal to candidates beyond salary, especially today. It's important to make sure you're showing the full value of public sector employment to candidates when they're coming to learn about opportunities at your agency. You know, they don't always know about the great benefits government agencies have to offer. Like, Jenna's whole family was in public sector work, but not everyone was raised that way. You know, some of us have only ever seen private sector or haven't really been fully introduced to that. So make sure that they know, make sure you're telling them that stuff, the strong health insurance, the tuition reimbursement, and the overall stability of the public sector. There's so much opportunity for you to tell your story in a way that really makes it clear and easy for job seekers to picture how their own career could grow and advance with your agency. So take the time to refine your marketing strategy. Think about, are you promoting current employees' stories that showcase how they've grown and developed and progressed through your agency? Make sure you leverage that. Those employee testimonials and successes mean a lot to candidates who are looking for that supportive culture that aligns with their values and their career aspirations. Also call out advancement opportunities in job postings. Show applicants the path to promotion in your agency. So when they apply, they're already thinking about staying long-term so that they can grow, reach those goals that they set themselves. It motivates them to be successful and to keep leveling up. And like Adam said, it helps improve your retention. So definitely want to do that. All right, moving on. So Jenna is going to start us off with this next trend, which is service roles are becoming the new leadership.
Well, I think that this is probably my favorite trend of all of them throughout the report. I think this is really special. So agencies are posting 28% more social service jobs. So roles like social work, mental health, crisis response than they did in 2019. And applications to these positions increased 12% in 2024. This reflects both a continued need for these roles and a growing pool of qualified candidates. Even as service-related job postings slightly decreased from 2023 to 2024, applications continue to rise, with an application conversion rate reaching 2.63%, a 26% increase from 2023. So all of that means that communities understand that social service roles are essential, and more job seekers are being drawn to work that directly address societal challenges. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, employment in social service roles is expected to grow faster than all occupations in the coming years. So once again, as Alex and Adam have talked about, I think a lot of this is a reflection of the younger generations, that they're prioritizing purpose and fulfillment versus just doing a job for a paycheck. And a lot of our data we've compared back to our 2019 data, which I believe highlights the impact of COVID. Oh, I know I talked about my, personal stories of, how COVID impacted me and my insight of my career. But I think the pandemic revealed the critical role that social service positions have in supporting our communities, which likely increased interest in careers that make a direct impact. I also think this period of time also gave many people the opportunity to reassess their careers and consider whether they truly wanted to continue in the same roles long term.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jenna. And this is a really advantageous trajectory because the job target is moving towards what the public sector is great at, right? Where the public sector is the cornerstone of community strength, your people, your operations, the communities that you serve. It's all part of the larger mission and purpose of public service. So it has a huge impact on developing the overall perception of your agency to show you in a positive light. This helps build those connections with job seekers who do want to make a positive difference in their community, who want to feel a sense of purpose rather than just going for the paycheck. And so definitely look into ways to get as much as you can out of that. So one way you can start is by partnering with colleges and universities in your area to connect with students in social work programs or similar studies. Maybe you can offer internships at your agency or set up a mentorship program to show students maybe what a day in the life looks like for a social service role. And those are great ways to build relationships with future job seekers, the up and coming generations who you already know share some of the values and the career goals that your agency has. So definitely look for opportunities to leverage that and get ahead of the game. I think Adam had a really unique story to share here, so I'll give you the opportunity to share that if you'd like.
Sure. So what we are definitely seeing, to Alex's point, is the importance of creating those early pipelines, right? So when we look at our organizations, if your institution, your community, your county is focusing on those service roles, really aligning those recruitment strategies back to what you actually need, right? Because what's happening externally is those larger corporations and industries are already building their pipelines. Right? We need to also be mirroring some of that behavior so we can go into our local community colleges, to our four-year programs, those types of things. But we can also look at some of those hard to fill positions and start asking questions with those who are in the field. So the one thing, and this is something that came up during my time working with the municipality, and I hope they're on the call because I love this story and I know somebody's going to text me after this, but they started asking, why can't we fill these mechanic roles, right? Anybody have some mechanics within their organization, whether they're diesel or heavy or small engine, right? All those are very technical roles and they need certifications. They were struggling to fill in their local community. They wanted to pull in local talent. So they went to the local parts stores, right? So your AutoZones and your Pep Boys and your Advance, and they were able to talk with the folks there and put up physical flyers in those spaces with QR codes and tearaways to engage with a group that isn't necessarily connected in the ways that many of our other applicants are, right? And so thinking about your recruitment strategy in that way, getting creative with what pipelines look like, both academically, but also in the community space. Are we engaging with our community centers to pull in applicants from our local communities to fill some of those voids? And so we are seeing success there. I hear from folks every day of the week when we're talking about the products that we offer and that we navigate with different communities, that they're getting creative with their strategies. They're using our products and really brainstorming about how best to use them to meet those goals. It doesn't hurt that there's more folks in the pipeline, but there's also untapped folks in the pipeline that we can be connecting with differently. And I just thought the parts house, the automotive space, was such a really great creative solution to a kind of a systemic problem in our local community here. So,
yeah, I love that. And it's, we always say, meet applicants where they are, meet candidates where they are. So, who is your ideal candidate? That's something Jenna talks about in her tutorial too, and understanding them and where they're going to be looking. So, yeah, I love that story too. All right, our fourth trend for today is that scarcity is unveiling a hiring advantage for the public sector. So I'm going to let Adam take it away.
Excellent. So we are seeing some really unique realities here. So some of this from my seasoned colleagues on the call is not going to be new knowledge to you, right? We're always being asked to do more with less, right? Spoiler for the next slide. but this is part of the conversation that we have to have. So because positions, the number of positions posted between 2023 and 2024 did fall 9.4%, right? That's almost a 10% decrease in just postings. We saw the applications continue to rise, right? You can see where these two lines are really coming close again compared to our 2019 starting point. And so again, we were seeing a little bit of that trajectory fall in 2020. We've seen both of them rise at different rates, but we're seeing that come back. So what we're having for the first time in my recent recollection is an employer's market where we get to spend more time really analyzing and choosing the top talent that's coming in through our pipelines, right? So I think what's really helpful here is when we think about all the opportunities we have to offer, we also get to be choosy as well, right? We have more folks in the pipeline who, some of them are sticking in that pipeline longer, but we also have folks who are, because there's so many more applicants to be considered, it's changing the kind of the dynamic that we can think of as employers to really hone in and find that right fit with the right person. So I'm gonna jump into the next slide for me. Excellent, thank you. So we do have an amazing opportunity to be more strategic about our hiring. What we have here is 34% of job seekers are searching for over 6 months. So we are having folks who are sitting on their couch after dinner, checking every day for months on end, trying to find that right position, putting their applications out there, waiting patiently. And so folks are being patient, right? Some of them are being picky because they want to find the right organization, the right opportunity, but they're also being left in the pipeline because there's other qualified folks who are being selected. And so again, back to hard to fill positions, engaging with different stakeholders to get creative with what folks are actually looking at and convert those looks into applications is going to be critical over the next several years as we see this continue to grow so that we can still attract and retain some really wonderful talent. What I think is very interesting about this trend, and again, similar information to trend 2, is that the seekers are also seeking the right role with the right value structure, right? Again, back to purpose and mission. If our younger applicants are staying out in the job market and looking for longer, it may be because we have not necessarily informed them of our value structure and our purpose and our mission. Again, bringing that to the top of your job postings, of your marketing materials, can really change the dynamic within those confines because folks, again, of course, they want to provide service for, some type of job for compensation, but it's all the other things that come along with that and the benefits that Alex talked about earlier. So again, I think we have two things that are both true here. We have folks who are being picky and we have more folks in the pipeline for us to choose from that's creating this wonderful opportunity for us to also then be picky as the hiring organization. Where I think we can see a huge difference and benefit within our process is expediting our hiring process, really making those efficiencies sing so that we are moving folks through our pipeline as quickly as possible to find that, yep, they have the right skills, knowledge, abilities, that they are in line with what we stand for, and move them through the recruitment strategy and your recruitment process as quickly as possible to get them out of the market and into our organization. Because if they're going to be patient, we want to make sure we're not missing them by holding up their own process, or we're losing traction with them over 1, 2, 3, 5+ months in some cases. So we want to make sure that we're utilizing the knowledge we have as customers with the Insight platform to make sure we got that time to hire down as succinct as we possibly can by looking at those efficiencies that we're utilizing.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, so why does this matter? Well, Adam kind of covered it, but I'll dive in a little bit more. So we're seeing more budget cuts. There's a lot going on, and of course, it's all like we said, change is constant. So we're facing more budget cuts. Agencies have limited resources, and that means they have to do more with less. They're still being asked to do as much, if not more, but oftentimes being given less. So when you need to operate more efficiently to eliminate some of the pressure on the public sector, that's where the unique opportunity to be more strategic with your hiring comes in. Looking at adopting recruitment marketing tactics for positions, especially with low retention, can be a really great way to get started and help stay prepared. We have a tool called Attract. We'll talk a little bit about it later, but that can really help you build recruitment marketing campaigns that will be automated, that you can send out and engage with candidates, that you can start building targeted campaigns towards those hard to fill roles so that you're prioritizing, you're spending more time building up a database of candidates, making sure that you have someone to reach out to when those jobs open up, when those high turnover roles open up. You know you already have qualified candidates in your pipeline. You can automatically start reaching out to them because you're expecting that to come. It's a great way to make sure that you're ready for that change that comes, whatever the future brings. We know that it's very likely that the job market is going to drop again in the future. I mean, that it goes up and down all the time. So right now we may be moving towards an employer's market, but when it shifts back down, we want to be ready. You want to have those candidates, you want to build those relationships and make sure that you're ready for the job seekers market when there aren't so many applications coming in. So having those recruitment marketing campaigns and processes set up is really important so that you're already building that foundation to withstand any of the challenges that are coming your way.
And also, me, I have one thing that we talked about previously, and it's about the user experience. So when we think about our applicants and that we're creating that space for them to have a very succinct, very streamlined experience, because if we lose them just in the application, they're not coming to the end, they're not hitting submit because they got bogged down because they had to make another profile and another application. Well, that's not helpful for them, right? So when I think about the successes of really effective recruitment strategies and marketing campaigns, it's all built together, right? So we have the beautiful brand, we're bringing them in, we're giving them a wonderful user experience where they can connect with the right players if there's any issues. And again, then they move into our organizational process. And I think all of that matters for my repeatability of coming back into that organization. If I'm not the successful candidate this time, was my experience good enough to actually make me consider coming back again? Hopefully, yeah, that's the goal, right? That we get those repeat applicants, or they put in a job interest card so they can get that email from us over the next year of that reminder. You said you wanted to come work for us. Is that still true? Great, let's do that. So again, that active, that passive marketing that comes along with the processes that we build out is so imperative to the success. So we can capitalize now and then retain those great folks as we move forward. So thanks for a couple extra seconds of that, your time there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great point. Okay, last but not least, you'll probably find that this fifth trend is sort of a culmination of a lot of things we talked about today, and you've seen those through lines continue through all of them. But I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jenna. She's going to dive into why employer branding starts at the top.
Well, more agencies are seeking senior talent and experienced candidates are stepping up. And I think that's a common thing we've seen through all of the data that we've gone through today. Compared to 2019, agencies posted 21.6 more top quartile positions in 2024, while applications for these flagship roles jumped 26% from 2023 to 2024. So this rise in application for these top tier jobs indicates more professionals are actively choosing roles that come with impact. I think we've talked about that through multiple of these trends that really that emphasis on impact. A 2025 LinkedIn survey shows that candidates are prioritizing company values, mission, and culture in their job search more than in years past. So with all of that being said, branding is essential, and Alex will dive more into this, that when people were talking about where they lived, I'm not sure if anyone on here said that they lived in Pennsylvania. I didn't see it, but I'm a Pennsylvania native, but I moved out of state a few years ago. But Pennsylvania had the same branding for several years. And the current governor and their administration just completely rebranded. So every time I go back home and visit, every sign, billboard, license plate is now red, white, and blue, has a Liberty Bell, and has their new phrase, "Let freedom ring." And I thought this was such an interesting change, but I also thought from a marketing standpoint that it's very smart. So, you know, the Liberty Bell symbolic of independence, equality, social justice. So utilizing that in their marketing helps sell Pennsylvania, you know, as a place to visit, as a place to live, and even as a place to work. So, and this one is a big trend for me. I think, throughout this, you could probably tell I'm a little bit of a writing nerd and a marketing nerd, especially with job descriptions and job announcements. But one of my previous lives was as a posting and marketing supervisor in the public sector. And I understand that sometimes public sector job postings can be known to be long. They're sometimes, a little bit complicated to read. And, previously working in talent acquisition, I understand that there's certain language that's necessary to include. But one of those necessities should absolutely be to emphasize your agency's values and mission in your job announcements.
Absolutely agree, Jenna. So this is huge for the public sector because mission is one of the key selling points in government work. Your leadership positions, so those positions in quartile 1 and quartile 2, they're getting the most visibility from candidates. So this is really your best opportunity to sell yourself as an employer of choice. Candidates are seeing these jobs and learning about your organization, so you can use those flagship roles as brand beacons to showcase your impact and build positive impressions of your agency. So take this chance to say, here are all the reasons you want to be part of this culture and this mission. Then even if they don't apply to that specific job, or maybe they aren't selected for the role, they're already interested in you as an employer, and they're more likely to then go and check out some of your other open positions, maybe ones that don't even get, typically the same amount of attention, but now they're starting to gain interest and hopefully they're getting more applications. So really leverage the power and influence of your leadership positions to strengthen your brand and get the word out there. And then over time, you'll start to reap the benefits of that exposure. Adam, did you want to add something? I feel like there was something here that you wanted to mention, but
I think the leadership conversation is just so impactful. For my colleagues on the call, I've got a doctorate in leadership education. Like, I love the power and influence that our leadership can be, again, that brand beacon. And so who are your champions in the organization? Are they the structured leaders at the very top? Or internally, do you have folks who are really rising leaders and developing what that brand looks like in the mission and vision, how they're implementing it? Because again, some of that beacon and what we see is really powerful. I always share this story with folks that when I transitioned out of higher education, I was going through a leadership program in my local community, and the city manager of the city that we were sitting in came into the room, had a conversation with the local mayor and some other members of his leadership team, and I left that room confident that I was going to work for this guy someday. He was what I was looking for at that time in my life, and he was the beacon. Spent 40 years in public service, and he understood what it meant to navigate the turmoils and ups and downs of public service. And so I think it's really powerful to listen to those folks and let them be the beacons that they are, and highlight that. I always share, like, we implemented Onboard in the organization I was at, and the second widget box on the screen was the city manager saying, "Welcome to the city. We're thrilled you're here." And it's the exact energy he brought externally to the local community, right? So internal, external, what a great, representative of what it means to be a part of this community. And so again, you can't make stories up like that. Like, it's such a powerful experience, and your leaders are doing it, maybe not every day, but they're definitely doing some great things, and highlighting that, because they really are the beacons that bring new folks in, especially those most talented, those senior leader positions. They're going to work with them every day. What does that person stand for? What do they believe in? And how do they model your values? There's something missed there, I think, across a lot of organizations that we can be tapping into now and really capitalize on the market the way it is.
yeah, I love that point, Adam, and just like emphasizing how, not only are those jobs beacons for your brand, but also whoever you hire in that role is going to be a brand beacon as well. So just making sure they're aware of that and they align with those values. And now job seekers are looking for that kind of meaning in their work. So it's a really great opportunity. Yeah. All right, so as you probably know, NEOGOV is a public sector HR software platform, so we would be remiss if we didn't spend a few minutes talking about how we've worked to support public sector agencies, which each of these initiatives to ensure that you're better prepared to hire more efficiently and effectively in this ever-changing job market that we're constantly going through. So I'm going to take a few minutes just to highlight some of the things about us before we jump into the Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat for us and we will get to them right after this. So NEOGOV software works for you. We're made specifically for the public sector, so you don't have to worry about, trying to fit your unique processes into convoluted solutions that were not actually made for your needs. Maybe they're made for private sector or enterprise or something. We've seen that a lot. We hear that all the time. So our platform is highly configurable to support any and all of your processes and workflows. We know these can become really complicated, so we make sure that our software can be easily tailored to support that while automating those manual tasks so you don't have to waste time on the really tedious work. And we also make sure that you can easily scale our software across your agency and other departments. So you can standardize processes, we have templates that can be easily adjusted, built upon, duplicated for as many workflows as you need. And all of this is possible without any help from IT. Our platform is really modern, it's easy to use, so HR can set up these processes themselves and you don't have to wait for IT to get back to you, which is really nice. I know that's something all of us have had to do before. So, and since we exclusively cater to public service, we also have a really amazing public sector network that can help you tap into more helpful resources and insights. We have a global form library that enables sharing from other agencies, so you don't have to make your own forms from scratch. We have a really awesome success community where you can go and get product trainings, you can ask questions, share ideas, network with peers. And we have our annual Ignite conference for customers. You can come in person, get hands-on training from us, get a glimpse at our product roadmaps, network, and just have fun, lots of parties, and get tons of thought leadership that you can take back with you too. So Ignite is coming up here in a few short months from September 29th to October 1st in Las Vegas. So if you're a customer and would like to register to attend, we'd love to see you there. There's a link here in the slide deck for you if you'd like to do that. And I'm going to let Adam actually speak a little bit more towards Ignite, since he's not only a former customer of NEOGOV, but has actually attended the conference before. So.
No, so I can't speak highly enough. So I also throw a shout out to Alex, because I met Alex last year at Ignite and she took way too much video of me and I ended up in a video. So feel free to find that on LinkedIn if you'd like. It is a wonderful opportunity. So I've been twice. The conference I learned so much from not only NEOGOV as a company, but also from my new friends and my colleagues across the country, because you start chatting and you realize our problems are different, but they're weirdly similar. And how did you combat that? And so I have notebooks from every night that are just chock full of ideas that I need to follow up on, and learning plans, and where in the community I can engage with this. Because I think back to the community comment of the shared ideas, this is like an incubation space where there's some wonderful speakers, a ton of great training. We're getting down to the nitty gritty, but you're also just spending time with people who are just throwing out ideas, because we're all in this thing together, right? Covering the entire US, some friends in Canada, like we are covering so much ground and supporting so many different communities. Why am I not borrowing ideas from my colleagues and my friends? And so I think this is an opportunity to spend time there. I also say, like, this is where I met the folks that I work with now. So I literally went to multiple of these. I met the team. I just fell in love with the organization and the culture, and that we serve the people who serve the people. And I felt served as a servant, right? So there's these really great things that happen at this conference. I'm not trying to oversell it. It is great. I highly recommend it. And if you are attending, please do track me down. I will be there the whole time. I'm leaving a little early on the last day so I can get a flight back to the East Coast, but I'll be there, bells and whistles. Come see me. I'd love to chat about your products, what you're interested in, all that good stuff. Cool. I'll pass it back to you, Alex.
Thank you, Adam. No, that was great. I will also be there this year, so feel free to track me down if you're going to be there. We'd love to see you, get to know you some more, hear about your experience with our products too. So we always love to hear that. And so I'm just going to briefly cover a few of our hiring solutions. They're all integrated together. They were designed to empower public sector agencies to streamline your processes, to make your team more efficient and more effective. So Insight is our applicant tracking system. This is probably our most popular solution as of right now, but it really does help automate that process, build configurable workflows that work for you, automate the application pre-screening process, the approval process, the interviews, everything, beginning to end. It helps you really easily manage that and track that through the entire process. Attract is our candidate relationship manager. So this is the one I mentioned earlier. It can help you with your branding. You can manage those connections with candidates before they actually apply, answer their questions. You can set up career pages depending on your department for different positions. They can have all the information that they need. You can put your brand out there. You can set it up for events too. There can be event pages, collect their information. So it's a really great tool to have when you're starting to build your brand and want to get your brand out there. There's also Virtual Recruiter, which sends those automated recruitment marketing campaigns that are really key for bringing in candidates for those high turnover or hard to fill roles. So it's a really beneficial tool to have in your toolbox. And then governmentjobs.com, I'm sure a lot of you probably heard of that too. That is our public sector job board. So we have tens of millions of candidates on there. They're searching for jobs every day, every month. And over 2.8 million candidates have opted in to hear about your open roles if they match your qualifications. So those are recruitment marketing campaigns from Attract would get sent over to those candidates if they match the qualifications for those jobs. So really great tools. They all work together and connect to make sure that your process is really streamlined and easy and efficient. So just have to pitch those for you guys. I know it's the typical spiel, but you know, we're really passionate about what we do. So yeah, we're here to serve you. So thank you all. All right, so we're gonna move on to the Q&A. So we have a few minutes left, and so we'll look through the chat and answer some of the questions that you've been sending in. If you have a question and you don't want to ask it right now in the chat, or it doesn't get answered when we're looking through, we can absolutely follow up with you on that, or just reach out to our team and we'll answer any questions that you have. But if you don't get an answer from us in this webinar, then our team will definitely follow up with you. So just keep an eye out for that. So I'm going to look through the questions real quick. I already see one asking about, is there an onboarding platform or toolkit for employers to use? So yes, does Jenna or Adam, do you want to speak a little bit about Onboard?
Sure, I get to talk about it a lot. So
I was going to say, I'll have Adam take it. Yeah.
So he might be the perfect person for that.
So I implemented Onboard, which is our onboarding platform, at the municipality I worked at prior to leaving that organization. And so yes, we do, fully robust. It actually integrates with Insight. So you're taking applicants, you're moving them over into becoming employees, and you're creating a space for them as kind of a single source of truth where you're putting all the most relevant information right there at their fingertips and then giving them responsibilities to complete. We also have an I-9 integration with that product, so it's free, it's part of it. We know how important it is with our state and local municipalities and in integrating with the federal requirements. And so we manage a lot of those forms and processes for folks to make sure they're up to date. But it's all configurable, it's all aligned with the organization's needs, and you can create tasks, processes, you can upload videos, connect with requirements both for new hires, but also managers or IT or payroll. So we can absolutely, we do have that. It's really great. I love talking about getting new employees settled in. The platform also has an offboarding function so that you can actually remove folks from the system and basically assign them as terminated. You can do a whole process for helping them offboard, make sure you get their keys, X, Y, and Z. So again, yes, it's a great system, great conversation, and happy to talk with you more about that.
Yeah. I will add too, obviously, I work in human resources internally for our company where we use our platform Onboard to onboard all of our employees. One of the best, if not the best, onboarding platform I've ever used throughout my entire career. Oh, super easy to use. As you know, coming on to here and learning how to use it as an employee, and you know, starting my career of how am I going to onboard onto here and you know, sign up for my benefits and you know, do all of that, and how's everything you know, added into Onboard. Super easy to use, both you know, as the applicant to hire as well as the employer.
Awesome, love that. Yeah, Onboard is great. It connects right with Insight also, so even more streamlined across that entire process. So you'll see a lot of that with our products too. I did get a question about the price structure of NEOGOV software. So it is based on the size of your organization. Also, of course, how many products you want to invest in, and you can renew annually. There are options for that. So absolutely, our team will get in touch with you to tell you more about that for sure. What kind of training and support is provided? So our team does help with the initial implementation and setup of your systems to make sure that all of the processes that you want set up are set up for you. We in Attract will also help you set up those career pages for individual departments if you'd like. There's templates in there for those email recruitment marketing campaigns that are sent out through email. So there are templates provided in there. And we also have a lot of training resources available in our community. So on all of our products, you can go in there if you want more specific direction on how to use certain tools in the software, you can absolutely go in there too. So lots of resources out there for you to help make sure that you feel good about the software, and getting started will definitely take you through that entire implementation process to make sure it's very smooth and set up the way that you want it to be too.
And Alex, I'll add to that one, especially around Attract, since we're talking recruitment today. You'll actually be also assigned a permanent kind of consultant and support person with the Attract module, because we know it's a system that is always growing and changing. So you'll have a touch-based person ongoing with that product specifically. The rest of our products are really designed to be train the trainer, and then you come back to the community for additional support and guidance. So a couple of cool things there about that specific module is you actually get a person who will walk you through that, help you, support you for the life of that product.
Yeah, Adam, you took the words right out of my mouth.
It's so cool. It's so
yeah.
cool.
Let's see, I'm looking through the questions here. Thank you for adding that. Someone asked, is it beneficial to only attend Ignite for the first 2 days? We, of course, always recommend 3 days if you can make it work. It's a really fun experience, but 2 days is still, of course, more beneficial than not going at all. So absolutely, we invite you to join us with a 2-day ticket as well. If that's what you can make work. If you have other things going on or just for budget reasons, we understand that. So absolutely, I would highly recommend Ignite even just for 2 days if you can't make it for that 3rd day. Not all of the content from the 3rd day will be available on the first 2 days. So that's the only thing. You'll inevitably miss some things, but of course, yeah, still very valuable, a very valuable experience. Let's see. An interest, so Adam, someone said they really enjoyed your story about the mechanics, recruitment and such. I'm gonna throw it out there. Any creative solutions or stories off the top of your head regarding firefighter recruitment? I know that's a whole other subsector, but I figure why not? We got a few minutes left. We can see if anything comes to mind or if you have some unique experiences you want to share.
Sure. So I'll share, Jenna, and I'll pass it over to you if you've got something as well. So I did work closely with the fire department at the local municipality that I worked with. And we had a good number of applicants. It's a very well-established organization. But a few things that they built out in terms of pipelining that was really effective was they actually started working with the local high schools. And they would create firefighter academies that local folks who were between 16 and 18 would go through a series of training opportunities to get some of that basic information. And then whether it was firefighter 1 and 2 or EMS, any of those things, they were building those out with the younger folks who were then meeting those kind of minimum age requirements. What was unfortunately happening on the first few renditions was folks were getting kicked out because they didn't have enough experience, right? They're 18, 19 years old. They don't have a long life experience yet. So what they were doing was adjusting their qualifications that said, if you completed this program, we'll at least give you an interview. And so it opened the door for a whole swath of young folks who went through, said, I'm committed to this idea, I'm committed to this type of organization. And so they were able to adjust their minimum qualifications for training and learning to align with this new process that they built out. And so for them, they were able to have multiple different avenues. The other space is that we know folks who serve generally like the idea of being in the fire service. And so engaging with our military organizations, right? Folks who are serving in different capacities, working with local hospitals or clinics, and connecting with folks who have EMS experience who may want some type of differing schedule or just maybe different types of navigating that service. And so I'm not for the pilfering conversation, but I think it's helpful when we expand out and we start asking, would you consider us? Here's what we offer. It may be something they're looking at, because going through those processes, there were a lot of former military, former law enforcement, former EMS who were just looking to stay in service for other folks. And I'm in Southeast North Carolina, so there's a lot of water around here. We got a lot of coasties, right? A lot of ex-Coast Guard veterans who were like, I want to stay in the area, so come on with it. So we had that benefit locally. But that would be just a few ideas off the top of my head of building a pipeline for youth, building a pipeline for our veterans, and kind of seeing how some of that may expand out. And if there's other suggestions, I'm definitely very open to them.
Love that. No, that's really smart. Thanks, Adam, for sharing. Very convenient that you also worked with the fire department.
Yeah, there was a small time I was a firefighter, so I can speak from several different years of that experience. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, we have one more question, time for one more question. So I'm going to throw this out there too, another sort of just like thoughts, experiences. But I do like the question because it's, of course, a hot topic these days. So in what ways is AI changing processes for recruitment, selection, and retention for local government? So do either of you have thoughts on that or perspectives that you'd like to share?
I mean, I can start, and then Adam, if you have, further thoughts, you can chime in. I think this is huge right now. And from my perspective, both from, I'm going to compare a lot to state government. Really, a lot of things depend on what regulations are going to be put or are already in place in your state, what regulations are going to be put in federally. So I think there's just a lot up in the air in terms of regulations. From our company standpoint, I think, we're really trying to build AI as best as we can to help these processes. I think, as a talent acquisition employee, Adam talked about time to hire, time to fill. How can we best use this tool to help our time to hire, time to fill with, recruitment and retention for, the public sector? So I think ultimately it's going to depend on what some of these regulations will be. I think it will depend on state. I think, when I think of my time in state government, I always think of how is this going to affect civil service laws, those civil service laws and regulations, how, are we going to change those? Are we going to add, AI language into those? So I think right now so much is just up in the air, but I think if we can use it, in a positive, impactful way, then, that's what we're going to try to do.
Absolutely. And I'll do 30 seconds so we don't go over time. So what I think I would echo everything Jenna is saying. I will also add, there's still a need for human oversight in all of what we're doing here, right? So
100%.
Yep, as an organization, we use AI to a certain extent, but we're not using it that's going to sort your candidates for you, because we know there's litigation out there right now with other companies that they're still trying to figure out who's getting kicked out, who's staying in. And so we've built a system that actually relies on you as the expert to make those decisions if you're going to auto screen a candidate pool. Right, so we still rely on the folks. We automate our processes, we save the time, but we're not yet moving to a space because we see others making this mistake that we don't want to share with you all. We don't want that to be on your doorstep. And so again, we get to also as an organization support you all in navigating that space because it is new. It's going to fall to regulation. I'm in North Carolina as a state. We're not in love with AI. I think that several folks have made that clear on my coast. Some folks are across the country. And so I think it's where you're sitting. And I think I would love to see you ask that question every single time, because I think our answers are going to grow over the next several years, where we're going to see more and more how and where. I mean, I love for it to help me brain create, but I'm not going to put that as the final product, right? So I think in terms of benefits of learning and creativity, I think it's huge. But just copying and pasting something into a posting, I've seen folks struggle with that because it's just not accurate. They're putting inaccurate information out because it's just not a good feed. So I know I just took us over a minute. I apologize, but yeah, no, I think it's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Thank you everyone for asking. That was great.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Thank you both for sharing there. I do want to add just briefly, someone threw in the chat that for the firefighter recruitment, they started doing signing days, sort of like a, college signing day. There's a lot of hype around those. So they started doing the same thing.
That's so cool. I love that.
Generating some hype too.
That's really fun. I'd love to see pictures.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're definitely over time. So thank you all for joining us. I want to make sure, just to mention again, keep an eye on your email. The recording of this webinar, the slide deck, and the official report will be sent to everyone who attended and registered. And for each trend, we only talked about really one action step that you could take towards improvement, but in the report, you'll find many more things you can do to boost that approach. So make sure you check it out and pass it along to others. I want to say thank you to Jenna and Adam for sharing your great insights and your experiences in the public sector. We really appreciate that so much. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today for this event. We hope you got a lot of value out of this information and could take some of these strategies to start improving your processes. So don't forget to fill out the survey at the end. It will pop up right after this. We'd really love your feedback on anything we can improve for the future, and we hope you have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.